Yo, what's going on? It's Terrell, Hall of Fame, D-Line, TBKC, and all that sweet, beautiful, wonderful shit. As always, I'm sitting in the car, so if you hear the engine running or some shit in the background, I do apologize. But this one is actually, I'm going to explain this in a couple different variances, but maybe it'll help you out, maybe not. But, you know, recently I was having a discussion, and y'all see, you know, I got another little male on the come up named Peoples, not Odell. Odell will be unveiled here shortly. We'll talk about him later. But you know, little Peoples, he's a little guy, you know. And Peoples is heavy Paco, and he's Denzel grandson. But anyway, in this discussion, what was said is that, you know, I brought up color in the discussion. And the person took him back because they watch all the videos, and as y'all know, I'll be like, you know, hell with a color. If it's a Brendo, if it's a black, if it's a whatever, you know, I like the dog. A bad dog is a bad dog. So I had to clarify. So let me go back to this. Back in the day, I lived in, you know, pretty much Amish country. I lived around a lot of farmers and different things. So of course I talked to them. You know, we all had, you know, they had big acres. I had, you know, I think I had 8 acres. It was, not think I had, it was 8 acres. It was 792 or some shit like that. Anyway, that's irrelevant. But I would talk to the farmers and, you know, and these guys, and I would get information, and, you know, and it was the first time it blew my mind. It was all the way back in like 2000 when I bought that house. But the guy was telling me, you know, as he looked at his cows, he was like, you know, man, I look at the patterns of the cows, you know, and and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but he was like, with cows, it's like 3 basic colors, and you know, and you know, in certain patterns, and I was like, well, what do you mean you look at them when they're young? And he said, man, you know, my bulls, excuse me, excuse me, man, y'all excuse me, please, but he said my bulls, you know, he said I know what they throw. You know, I know what their kids are going to be like, you know, based off of what they do, you know, through these colors and these patterns. And I'm like, that's interesting. And he was like, you know, and he continued to talk about it, and come to find out, you know, although he's a farmer, I looked at him, I underrated him because he was also, you know, had one of those degrees in genetics, and he had studied genetics hard, and he was really like educated farmer into his craft. But he still believed in these color patterns and certain identifiable traits that would come through in the coats of his cows. And he said, you know, he believed strongly on this. He was like, you know, if I see these marks and these marks, you know, and I see this color, you know, this specific color, he's like, I know that that's pulling from their granddaddy. He said, every time I pick that, he said, you know what I'm saying? He said, these old heifers turn out to be real nice, you know? And so I'm still listening, and I was asking him, you know, about some of the studies with genetics, you know, as far as colors go. And he was telling me, you know, at that time, he was like, yeah, it is some scientific proof behind it that in animals that do display certain color characteristics or physical characteristics in the color patterns, maybe their coat, certain markings on the skin, that they do carry a heavier genetic marker towards the physical traits and overall traits of whatever parent that they were getting that from. And it was pretty deep, you know, and it's something that I'm still sort of uneducated to even after college, but I do know some of the studies where they correlated that, and some of those studies ran into horses too, about the importance of the markings and the colors. So anyway, you know, as I progressed into my whole dog thing, I applied this. And some of you who go back, y'all will remember, when Denzel was born, I told people first and foremost beforehand that I was looking for the one that Hallie was, you know, was throwing. And a lot of people thought I was going after Paco, but I tell you, and Danny from Top Shelf, my brother, you know, he'll tell y'all, I called him from the C-section room and I told him, it was obvious Denzel is like a clone of Hallie. I said, this is the one. It wasn't no wait 6 weeks. It wasn't no anything. I always said he was the one right off top because of his color patterns. And I remember what this guy told me. And he said, you know, you pick the parent that you are favorable to. Of course, I was favorable to Hallie because she beat everybody. She was a monster. And I'm just thinking, okay, male version of Hallie, but it's probably going to be smaller because Gargoyle was only like 48 pounds. And that's what he turned out to be. So then later, and keep in mind, I'm telling y'all this because this is something we talk about in the inner circle, and you know, it works. But, and I'm not telling y'all to just chase colors. Of course, you got to do structure and these things, but this thing that I found out, especially with my dogs, that work. So most of y'all remember, like, I got bashed pretty tough when I was saying I was gonna breed Bistro to Jada. You know, one person that was weird as hell because he had Jada's sister, but he just was, Jada's not even show quality, she's this, she's that, she's this. You know, he bashed her left and right. You don't know what the fuck you're doing with breedings. How does this breeding make sense? And I was actually on a live, and what I said is, I don't even know if I was on a live or one of those other videos, but anyway, I told him, I said, look, bro, I was like, I'll tell you what I'm going for. I said, you look at all the dogs in this pedigree, you're looking at, you know what I mean, Lock and Load, Homie, you know, even all the way back to Nemesis if you go through the Heartbreaker. And I said, the dog that I love the most on this pedigree and the dog that I'm looking to pull based off of the balance and the way these genetics goes is Boom Boom. Now, keep in mind, if you look at that pedigree, Boom Boom is pretty much the only champagne dog on there, him and Pink Champel, which is his daughter. But now, as I looked at these dogs, Boom Boom, champagne male, also ton of white on the head, as we call it, piebald. You know, very big, one of my favorite dogs of all time. He was actually owned by Larry at Blue Nations. You know, I always wanted something off of Boom Boom, never happened. We can never sort of work it out, you know what I mean, between litters. But anyway, this is what I told him. I explained this, you know, and I told him, I said, you know, if a puppy comes out that has Boom Boom's markings and his traits, and it's deeper than just colors, trust and believe, because like I said, the dog has to have the substance, it has to have the size to show that he's carrying these genetic markers. But when Mandela was born, now I'm telling y'all look at his pedigree, there are no champagnes besides Boom Boom that it leads back to. His look is just like Boom Boom's. When he was born, those who were in the know and those who were talking about picking a dog, it was like, first day, I said, this is the dude. I watched him grow a little bit more and he started getting big like Boom Boom. I said, this is the dude. That shit pulled. You know, by the time he was 4 weeks, I was doing cartwheels. I was like, yeah, this is the dude. I was like, somehow magically this shit didn't happen again. And Mandela turned out to be, you know, a damn living legend. You know, puppies all around the world, champions. You know, in my opinion, probably my best producer, and there's no slight to Denzel, but pound for pound, Mandela to me just produces a more consistent, heavy bone type of dog that we're looking for, and not to mention he's just a fucking beast. You know, so it got Boom Boom. So fast forwarding to, you know, to my little guy. In the litter, it was a friend of mine who did the litter, you know, and it was a sable tri male and it was a black male, and then it was this guy, you know. And originally my dude was telling me, well, yeah, we sort of favoring that dude. So I was like, oh, okay, well, smart move, you know, cool. Then the sable male started getting bigger, and he, you know, he's incredible. But I kept looking at this little dude, and my boy that I talked to, you know, me and him talk a lot, you know. He's like my spiritual advisor, my dog guy, everything. We was talking, and I'm telling him about this little puppy, and I'm like, this shit is weird, man. And I was like, I want to see him. But I went with my gut because he had Denzel's red. Now, in these two dogs' pedigree, it's only a couple dogs, once again, that has that red. Denzel's color is pretty unique if you really see it, you know, because his version of fawn is like a deep rust red. A lot of dogs don't carry that color. You know, so even his kids, they would throw different versions of fawn, but they wouldn't have that color. So when I saw this dude, and that's Denzel's grandson from his daughter, which happens to be black, I said, oh, let me see how he looks. And the more he grew, very beautiful. And then I got a video, and he just had this walk, and I said, wow, that's Denzel's walk, you know? And it's fucking with me because we not supposed to believe in these things totally. It's like, where's all the science at it? But it is some science that leans to it. So I'm gonna tell you some things about Denzel that I look for. This is something that I look for in my blood. And I can tell you the champions, the dogs that he have, the great dogs that he have, the people who have my blood. If you have fine dogs, look for this mark on the tail of a lot of his great dogs, and the dogs especially that really carry his characteristics. It's always a black diamond. That actually comes from Hallie. Hallie had it. So I'm already like, let's see. So when I got to the house and I got the dog, I was great to see my friends, so I really wasn't paying as close attention to the puppy. But I immediately, that's one of the first things I checked. I said, oh shit, he got the black diamond. And this don't happen with all the dogs. It's certain dogs that I noticed this shit happen with, and they all became sort of his best dogs. So it's really starting to freak me out. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, maybe I'm on to something. And then I started doing, characteristics. I'm like, okay, he's got more white on the paws, but Denzel had the white paws, just like Hallie would bring in some white paw action there too. And that was a characteristic that would come through. Then I looked at the face. And although y'all don't know it, with the face, with whatchamacallit, Hallie and Hallie and Denzel, it's black in the muzzle. Most people don't ever notice because their faces is so brilliant with that half of face, but the muzzle is black. A lot of their dogs don't carry, a lot of dogs, not every dog in this, not bloodline, but this blood of dogs. I don't want to say that because I don't believe we have a bloodline yet, but they have a black mask. Denzel had it, Hallie had it, several of the other ones had it that I really liked. And some of them, sometimes it would go to being just, you wouldn't have nothing on the mask. It would be a normal color mask or whatever. But it was like a marker that I noticed that a lot of the dogs who really look like him in the face, they had that. So it's one last thing that I believe in, and this is the weird dog man shit. If y'all ever look at the pictures, y'all tell me if I'm lying. Now, I also have his sister, which is incredible. This was an incredible breeding done by my man, Nick Pike. You know what I mean? Just incredible. Incredible matchup, incredible. It's old school all the way, tanks, great conformation. It's just going to be a great breeding. I think it's going to be for, really, really solid dogs. So, Denzel, if you look at the pictures, we used to laugh about this, but he always looked sad. Even when he was a puppy, even though he has the correct eye shape, like an almond shape, his eyes sort of have a little bit of a droop to it that makes him look sad all the time. And when he was a puppy, we was like, why does he have those sad ass eyes? He always had these sad ass eyes where everybody else's eyes was a tight almond shape. So when I got him home, you know what I mean? Dude, he in the cage, I finally put him up after playing with him. And man, I look at Denzel, I look at him, and even everybody in the house, man, if it really took it there because Poop Dog, he the one that said it. He said, Dad, look at him. And I'm like, what you talking about, Poop? He was like, why do he look sad and the other puppy look happy? And I just started cracking up, and Poop was like, man, Denzel always looks sad like that. He was like, I could tell that that's his dad. He said dad, but it was really his grandpa. And it fucked me up because, y'all excuse my language, because I remember when I was in Kentucky talking to a horse guy, and he would talk about the eyes. And he wasn't talking about the eye color, but he was like, it's almost an expression, it's almost a personality that you can see in the eyes of certain horses, and it takes you to another horse that was there. He was like, it's almost like a passage to the soul, like it's passing it down to somebody else. And this little puppy has basically everything of Denzel, including this abnormally big rib cage for his size, which always attracted me to Denzel because a rib cage, the dog's going to grow into his rib cage. Really, really big ears. Don't y'all believe it. You've never seen a bully with floppy ears. You won't see a bully with floppy ears. So if you see a puppy with big floppy ears, I don't care if they look exactly like a pit bull. That head is going to grow into those ears. But, he's already had his ears cropped, by the way. But, it was so many different things. It was freaky. And, and I was like, maybe it's going to happen again. Maybe I'll get another little version of Denzel. And this, it's weird how genetics work. Sometimes it is one of your kids that throws you. You couldn't throw you, but you throw it by way of them. And the mixture of putting the Paco blood back in there might have activated it. So I keep y'all posted on this. But I will tell y'all, as y'all look at y'all puppies and you study your pedigrees if there is a certain dog that you're in love with in your pedigree, study all the features of this dog and let that help you make your decision when you're finding a puppy. Because I'm a firm believer in everything I just told y'all. Dogs carry characteristics from their parents. Now, it might not just be the color code, as we say, but sometimes it's something like I told y'all, the eyes. You know, you'll see something about the eyes. You'll see something about, you know, the mark on the tail or different things like that. When you really get down to this thing, you know, I'm so obsessive with it. I even look at the toenails, you know, and it's a thing with us where we want all of our dogs to have black toenails because it's, and that's more, might be superstitious, but a lot of our dogs that did have those darker like black toenails or whatever, it seemed like that their genes carried better. And this is an old like bully shit that we used to talk about back in the day. And for some reason, it's weird. It seems to be true that the dogs who have mostly the dark pigmentation in their nails were something special. But keep in mind, Mandela being a champagne, he doesn't have any dark pigmentation, so that would probably sort of debunk that theory right there. But study these things that I told y'all about, man, and learn your blood in your yard to that level that you can identify everything in the puppy so you don't miss out on the puppy, because it's very strong. We're talking about looks and characteristics. This DNA is embedded in these dogs, and if you study these dogs enough, you'll find your next great dog by understanding your puppy and not just going in there and talking about, oh, his head size, or this is the biggest pup, or I like how flashy his markings is, or I like this, or I like that. You're playing a DNA game. So if you're playing a DNA game, let's get down to true genetics and let's understand these genetics all the way. You know what I mean? Much love, y'all. Peace.